A new discovery which has not yet been published. It relates directly to the black communities across America. But before I tell you about that, people will say, well, big deal, so what? Why is history important at all? History is extremely important. Imagine if I could take from each one of you as an individual everything you knew about your life up to last week and just erase it. Where would you be? You'd be lost. You'd be incompetent. You wouldn't know how to plan for the future. And you do the same thing with a people. If you erase their history or you don't tell enough about their past, they also become incompetent and they can't fulfill the future. And that's why a lot of people in the black community have felt, well, how come all the dreams of the civil rights movement aren't yet fulfilled? And one reason is because this history is still suppressed.
Stop trying to explain yourself to somebody who is committed to misunderstanding you. No matter how clear you are, they are going to still leave muddy. No matter how many times you say you're sorry, they're going to still leave with an attitude. So instead of giving them speech, never waste your time.
Welcome to New York City. What up, Dr. Andy? How you doing today? Let's see something. Peace, Jay Stavon. Peace. That's what I'm gonna do. Drop the link early. Drop the link early. Got a little video I was going to play. Just to take the night down with. Some people here want to spoke about this yesterday, didn't we? Told you about JFK and RFK. You got to start with their father. You know that. They fulfilled their father's legacy. And they paid for, United States politics. That's what I think of them. It was good people, though. I think they was doing the right thing, at least trying to. Yeah, they right outside my window, outside my building, collecting this trash. So what's good? Anybody got nothing want to build on? I'm gonna play this video. Really, I'm just gonna play the audio. I have no intentions on playing the video. Staying low right now. I'm actually putting together a little. I'm gonna do the little PowerPoint presentation thing. Put something together in the next few days. Drop this little presentation. It's gonna be about smoke. Yeah, we're gonna get into this smoke shit. See who really wants to smoke. We're gonna break all that down. What this smoke shit is. And show us a facade. Because none of them want to smoke. But that's neither here nor there right now.
So we are going to present and discuss the indigenous people of Shaykpi. Many people don't know this, but that is actually the indigenous, the Lenape name for the area that we call New Jersey today. Shaykpi literally means by the water's edge, and as we know, the state has water on 3 of its sides, and we are bordered not only by the Atlantic, but also by the Lenape, which was today called the Delaware River, and the Pawtucket, which is the Delaware Bay. The symbol that you see is actually the symbol of my tribe, the Nanticoke Lenape, and I'll talk a little more about my tribe as we go through this presentation.
So this is Reverend John Norwood. He's the historian for the Nanticoke Lenape. This is the actual historian that I interviewed and discussed this whole Moor thing. And he answered emphatically that that is a bit of a myth. And, says something they've been dealing with for like 100 years. But there's no actual truth to it. Some of the groups were actually just descendants of people from Spain, identified as Moors. And nothing to do with no worse government, anything like that. Okay, Dr. Andy in the building.
Hello, what's up? Is my mic all right?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. It's like 9 a.m. It's 9 p.m. up here.
Where are you from?
California.
California. Okay, yeah, I never formally really got to know who you was. I heard you on different shows. So
different shows.
Who is it? Who may I have the privilege of knowing who it is I'm talking to? Who is Dr. Andy?
I'm just a dude from Los Angeles, California. Okay. So I live in California and all the other stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. Doing real well, man. Hope everything is well with you. So so what tribe are you from?
What tribe am I from?
Yeah.
I'm from like the Chechemec tribe down in Mexico. That's where I'm from.
Oh, you from? Okay, your people originally from. Oh, y'all Chechemec. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's dope. That's dope. I think your people and my people are like distant relatives.
Yeah, I think so too, man.
Y'all come from? Don't y'all come from the Great Lakes area?
Do I come from the Great Lakes area? No.
Don't your people come from they don't come from the Great Lakes area?
If you're talking about like the Midwest, no. If you're talking about like Lake Texcoco, then yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. So you're Lenape, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. You
Yeah, I
don't.
met
You
a
know
lot
where
of
that?
Lenape guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Lenape all over, all over.
Hmm.
You know, I'm from one of the families that stayed behind. So obviously we are in a mix of multiple ethnicities, but we still identify as Lenape,
Yeah.
carry our
I know a
traditions.
dude who's Choctaw. I know a dude who's Choctaw, basically. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people out here. See, the thing about like my community and a lot of the communities here on the East, though we are intermixed, you know, we come from communities that continue their traditions, and some of them even continue
Hmm.
the governments. Like my particular tribe, our government never ceased to exist from even before, you know,
Yeah.
from first contact. See what I'm saying? So we have our,
Yeah.
so you know, we just always been around. We just have went through changes. Feel me?
Yeah. So yeah, we have like a lot of Britannians over here in California, though. Like
A lot of Virginians.
uh, Pretendians, that's what I meant to say.
Oh,
Like,
pretending. Well,
yeah,
this is the
black
thing, right?
Pretendians.
See, this is the thing. I think a lot of these people have been misled and they've been taken advantage of and they've been gassed up and they're finding that they have some ancestry and then they're just, you know,
Hmm.
creating a narrative that's false. This is the thing, like, probably some of these people are related to the Indian nations, right? Might not be no direct relation, but they probably have some type of relation. And rather than
Yeah, they
find
do.
out what it is, you know what I'm saying? Like find what their place is. They're just assuming based on propaganda that's been told to them by people who really was just trying to take advantage of them. So a lot of these people,
Yeah,
they say the dumbest shit, and it's annoying. But
it is annoying.
them, they victims of people who are, you know, have a
Self-loathing.
malicious intent. Well, no, there's people
Oh
that are
yeah,
out here. There's people out here that can make a living off of people's insecurities. You know what I'm saying?
well, yeah, we live in
And
an era, or we live in the days where like grifters and charlatans are like,
yeah,
making spinning a narrative and trying to twist people's words
yeah.
to fit
So
their narrative out of context. So that's
absolutely,
the era. Yeah, that's the era that we live in. You know.
100%. Yep. So this is a part of that. Um, you know, like that's the era we living in, but the era that we kind of just came out of, right? Like I'm sure you're much younger than me, but there was a point in time when all these new age books started flooding the bookstores, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
that's a whole lot of new concepts were being flooded into the minds of the people in the
yeah.
80s.
And
You know
then
what I'm
we
saying?
have then we have like yeah. I was sorry to interrupt you, but now we have like new age
Yeah.
indoctrination.
Yep. Now that new age stuff that was being pushed on people in the 80s has evolved into this conspiracy thing because people are discovering these books and now thinking they've been hiding this shit when all that shit is just conjecture. See what I'm saying? So it's a whole bunch of shit going
Yeah.
on, and this generation has access to the internet, is being bombarded with all this fucking information, and they can't comprehend what they read. And this is what we have.
Well, because we have a lot of internet charlatans, man.
Yeah, we got
A
internet
lot,
charlatans
and
and people with low comprehension.
grifters too.
Yeah,
And don't forget the grifters though.
no. So the thing
But the
is,
grifter is just a kiss ass, basically. Sorry.
yeah, but the thing is, the
Oh
people
yeah.
have to learn how to weigh and judge people. You know what I mean? People got to learn to have higher standards on who they allow to teach them.
Yeah.
You're always gonna have grifters,
I agree.
right? You're always gonna have people
And,
trying to take advantage of you. Your
and
job is,
charlatans too, though.
your job is to
You know.
not allow these people to take advantage of you. What I'm saying is
Well,
a
I
lot of people
compare it.
here, a lot of people out here are looking for somebody to take advantage of them.
Yeah, well, my generation already had been taken advantage of, basically. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't like the direction that my people are going to, basically. You know.
In terms of what?
I don't know, but are you political by any chance though? Because I'm very political, but I'm very careful. Well, I like to keep my politics kind of private a little bit, you know. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm
not afraid to voice out my opinions.
Yeah, no, I'm I speak out. You know what I mean? I try to speak the truth. So we speaking on politics, I'm gonna speak the truth, and hopefully people don't take it personal. You know what I'm saying? Like politics are a part of life. Like politics are real. You know what I'm saying? And they edgy and they nuanced. You know what I'm saying? So politics is a tricky situation, and we can discuss politics. I ain't got no problem with it. I ain't got no problem with discussing anything. You know?
Yeah, well, there's a saying, and there's a quote from your tribe, right? You know, a man can hide his prejudice, but he can't hide his ignorance. Is that the quote that your tribe makes?
I mean, I wouldn't single out my tribe as I mean, that's a wise quote. So I wouldn't single out my tribe and say it belongs to my tribe. I think that's wisdom that probably belongs to many tribes. You know what I'm saying? But
well, I heard it from a I don't know. I heard it from like some dude who's Choctaw and Cherokee. Yeah. But I can understand that quote a lot, though. Basically.
Yeah. You know? Yes, it's definitely a wise quote, regardless of who says it. So.
Yeah. So do you understand what the quote means?
Absolutely.
Because I heard it a lot from like a lot of indigenous communities, though.
Absolutely. All you gotta do is listen to a man. He'll tell you everything about himself.
Yeah, man.
That's what he'll tell you his intentions. He'll show them to you. See what I'm saying? Yeah. That's all it means. Just listen. I always tell people, all you gotta do is do the knowledge. Give people the space to be themselves, and they'll show you exactly who they are. Just gotta give them a little time and space. See what I'm saying?
But you know, my people, I don't know, they're kind of whitewashed though. I don't know. They're like that whitewash mentality and all those stuff though.
Yes, colonization. Everybody been.
Yeah, my grandmother is very she doesn't want to acknowledge her indigeneity or like her indigenous ancestry though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because she has that Spanish, Iberian ancestry, and she likes to embrace that. Mm-hmm. But you know, she goes on the news and she likes to look down on quote unquote illegal immigrants or whatever. You know, all that type of dumb crap that I don't want to hear about.
So how do you feel about it?
But I hear kind of sad, basically. You know.
But you know what? You know, you have the opportunity to carry on the traditions, right? So that means you have the opportunity to edify or, you know what I'm saying, like not carry on some traditions. So if your grandmother feels that way, that don't mean her grandkids got to feel that way. You know what I'm saying? You have a say so in that. See what I'm saying? So you can write certain generational, you know what I mean? Certain, you know, things that have affected the generations before you. You can be the medicine moving forward. So if you feel like your grandmother or your family feel a certain way, you could be the change. And now moving forward, your family, you'll be the generator of a new consciousness in your family. That's simple. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's it, bro.
That's what I'm gonna do, man.
You ain't gotta stay where they at. and you can still honor them. You ain't got to talk bad about them. Just allow them to be
I
who
don't
they
want to
are.
talk bad about them though.
Nah, ain't no
But,
need to. But you just got to move forward in the light that you want to move forward and still honor them. You ain't got to bring all their baggage with
I don't.
you.
But like there is like I don't know, but if you know Latinos, they do have like certain prejudices though. Like I'm not gonna lie, like they do. There are some of them that are racist. It's pretty self-loathing too.
Everybody do it. Everybody got it. Ain't nobody like that's like don't feel like the Lone Ranger, bro. Everybody got their prejudices. You feel me? Everybody. That shit is not a unique trait owned by any one group of people on the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Some
man.
just have more empowerment to affect your ability to, you know, fucking make money and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, so when you combine some type of prejudice with some type of, you know, the capacity, the ability to oppress somebody, then it's an issue. You know what I'm saying? Most of us are prejudiced. We just right to we don't have the means to oppress people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is there. Yeah, there's a thing called contrarianism. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with like with the term contrarian, but it's a new like ideology or philosophy that's going on nowadays though. You
Like
know.
some argumentative shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know why? Because we live in a toxic culture where people no longer like they don't come together to build, they come together to debate, they come together to you know, like yo, steel sharpens steel, but everything ain't everything don't have to be a duel. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's the mentality that we in. Nobody like people they don't want to build, they want to debate. So one can be right and the other can be wrong. But if we build, we both can be right at the end of the build. See, it's a difference.
Yeah, man.
It's a different energy.
Well, I'm not very enthusiastic about next year though, and you know what's gonna happen in next year. You know.
What with the election?
Oh yeah. I mean,
What's going to happen is the same thing that happens every year.
Yeah.
Every year, people act like the next president is going to make or break the country, and the shit just keep rolling on year after year.
It's just the same. It's the same toxic cycle that goes on. You know, we see that in with Andrew Jackson and all that other stuff. Though we see that with all the other previous administration. It's the same shit. Mm-hmm. You know, and then you got Robert F. Kennedy's son saying some dumb shit about vaccines or whatever. Like, dude, get the fuck out of here, dude. And the dude's just a charlatan, you know. I wouldn't say he's a charlatan. He's a grifter.
Yeah.
You know.
But you know, like the United States is a fucking store, bro. It's a big ass mall. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So they got they fucking rules, bro. Right or wrong, niggas is up in the mall shopping. Feel me? Like it is what it is. Like this is really a corporation, and they really got their own rules. And people aren't able to exercise their actual rights because they are employees of a corporation.
They are.
I mean, it just it is what it is. Like, if people look on their passports, that shit don't under nationality, it say United. Like, you probably don't because you probably got a tribal card, right? But
I don't have a tribal card.
On the average, on people's passports, under nationality, it says United States of America. It don't say America. See what I'm saying? What is the United States? It's an agreement amongst states. That's not a nationality. They're saying you are an agreement amongst states to do commerce. Yeah. That's what the fuck you are. Look on your passport.
Oh well.
Your nationality.
Oh, speaking of passports, we're gonna get our passports soon to visit our country. so
Well,
we can
you,
go there
you
back
should have
and
your
forth.
own separate shit. I don't know if you was born in another. I don't know what the situation is. I'm saying the average American who has a passport under nationality, that shit is gonna say United States of America.
Yeah, man.
It's not gonna have a nationality.
You know.
So that just is showing you that the people that are citizens of this country
Well,
are the citizens.
yeah, I want to say something though because my friend says that every like every race of people have a tendency to like sell out, basically. You know.
Well, you're gonna have a percentage of the population that will, yeah, always.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
And
mean, I
any group
know
of
some
people,
Latinos that sell out. You
I
know.
mean, any group of people you get, it doesn't matter what group it is, you're gonna have a certain breakdown, a certain percentage of people that are gonna act a certain way and gonna be compromised. That's amongst anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like you said before, dude, the United States is like a shopping mall. You know, like you
It's a big
can
ass
shop
mall.
ideas. Yeah,
Everything.
there's a saying. There's a
Sales.
saying in like in the white conservative community. There's the market, the marketing of ideas or something like that. You know.
Yeah, America is this motherfucker. United States is Shark Tank.
You know, like we had a charlatan. We had a charlatan president. You know, who's in the White House. I'm not talking about Biden. And I have no love for Biden. I'm not a kiss ass for him. I don't hate the guy. I just think he's kind of old as fuck, you know. And I have nothing against old people, though, but, you know, they just.
He seems a little too old for the position.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's a little too old for the position. But
he might.
I think local politics are more important
In federal politics.
Yeah, I think
I
more
agree.
can be done with local politics. So that's something that I think people should be focusing more on. The politics that affect their community, the communities that they live in, and then the state policies that affect their greater communities. You know, I think if you work within that, I think you'll be fine. Whatever the fuck the president does, that's just primarily dealing with international shit.
They're always going to deal with international shit, though. They're always going to deal with an international incident, like always, you know.
Yeah.
Like, look at the Cuban Missile Crisis with Kennedy, though. You know. Yeah. And let's not forget that Kennedy was a pimp, though. By the way.
Was a what?
You know, JFK. He was a pimp.
A pimp?
Yeah. You never heard of his affairs in the White House?
No. I'll tell you what was happening. He wasn't a pimp. So what was going on in those times is they had these programs that they were running, and they had a group of women. Marilyn Monroe was one, right? And it's the one girl that died. She died a few years ago, big girl. She was another one of them. But it's kind of a template they use, and they use these women to control famous or powerful men. So really, Marilyn Monroe, she was a part of this program. She was one of the templates. It's always a blonde hair. You know what I mean? That was the template. Goes back like Dolly Parton is like they all go back. They go back to the one lady from the films from like the 20s or whatever. I don't know, but it's basically this is some like old, this is that new age fucking 80s shit. And
I know what you mean.
Yeah, so he was all wrapped up in that shit because of what was going on. But
there's an interesting documentary about that on Prime. Yeah. You should check it out.
Yeah, you know, I probably watched all that shit 15, 20 years ago. But the shit about that whole thing is their whole administration goes back to their father running liquor, being a bootlegger, and being in business in bed with the mob.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how they got elected. And once they got elected, instead of doing what they were supposed to do, they went straight They went to straight and narrow. And that's what got the Kennedys killed. Because their father was in bed with the mob and made an agreement. And the mob got
And he also pissed off the CIA too, though. There's a man named I don't know if you're familiar with like Alice Dulles, but he was the mastermind of the assassination, though. He was a director at the time, though. But the reason why he killed Kennedy is because he fired him from his position.
Listen, the director of the CIA when Kennedy was killed was George Bush. The Bushes secretly ran the country for like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
The director of the CIA has the highest clearance. So when a president is elected, the director of the CIA briefs him on shit the president don't know about. So George Bush was the director of the CIA long before he became the president. You understand?
Yeah,
he was the man that was in charge when Kennedy was killed. And they say that is when that's when the coup happened and the country was taken over.
Yeah, man.
And the CIA and all that shit is wrapped up in it. Yeah, all that's that motherfucking 80s shit, bro. 80s, 90s conspiracy shit. That shit was Behold the Pale Horse, all that shit. Yeah, that was the golden age of the new age, the conspiracies. That's when all this information was starting to come out. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Had everything to do with the Freedom Information Act. 40, 50 years for information to come out. So around the 90s is when a lot of this information was coming out. Or maybe it's like 40 years, I don't know what it was, but a lot of this information started coming out in the 90s. People started talking, and like the Zapruder footage, the technology, they were able to enhance the footage so you could see more, and that's when people started figuring shit out. You know what I mean? Even though it was kind of already understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the United States is a big ass store, and these motherfuckers be fighting over it. It was a store when it started. Remember, 13 colonies were just supposed to be trading posts. They didn't become permanent. They didn't become permanent establishments until after the Revolutionary War. Prior to that, they were just trading posts. Europeans were coming here, getting money, working, and then going back to Europe with their money. That's what was happening. Motherfuckers wasn't coming here set until after the revolution. That's when they came and said, we ain't leaving. Prior to that, it was just coming here, working. A lot of them was going back to Europe.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing, man. But I'm just curious about like your tribal history though, with the Lenape and stuff.
What are you curious about?
I don't know about how you guys won your casinos and stuff.
We don't got no casinos. Where you get casinos?
You don't?
No, no fucking casinos, bro. That's the Pequot.
Oh, the Pequot.
Yeah, we're not all the same tribe. A lot of different tribes out here, bro. That's why we tell people, y'all gotta speak to us. Because trying to figure this shit out from afar, you ain't gonna get it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, my people don't got no casinos. We don't got none of that shit. Government don't fuck with us, but we in the Smithsonian, we on record, they know who we are. We just don't have government to government relationships with them no more.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's, you know what I mean?
I mean, we don't got reservations down here in Mexico though. I mean, we wish, but we don't.
So the first reservation in United States history is called Brotherton Reservation. It's in Indian Mills, New Jersey. That reservation was on my people's land. The first reservation in United States history. Not the first reservation in colonial history. That was down in Virginia. I'm saying after the United States was formed, the first reservation, the first Indians they put on a reservation are the New Jersey Indians. It's called Brotherton.
Wow.
And the Indians all left Brotherton. Some went up with the Oneida, some went to the Ohio River, and they sat there for like 80 years, and some of them just disappeared back into Monmouth County. I come from the ones who went and disappeared back into Monmouth County. We were able to go back into where we came from because we were mixed by then, and we could just blend in with everybody else. So that's how we was able to stay home. You understand?
Yeah.
While our relatives had to all remove.
Yeah. Well, are there some indigenous tribes in the United States that are in bed with the mafia? That's what I'm curious about.
So my family is currently fighting a case now because all of our land has been being stolen by the mafia subsequently for probably about 150 years. And the way it looks, they are in bed with a different group of Indians from my nation. So let me just leave it at that.
That's interesting.
And a lot of the issues that are because we have African admixture. You understand? So
I see.
it's a bunch of shit going on. I can't get too deep into, but we're in court now fighting this shit.
I'm glad to hear, man. I mean, my dad had to similar. My dad was a union organizer though, but he had dealings with them. You know, that's a long story, but to keep it short, let's just say they just cracked the shit out of his leg though, because I remember that when he was like picking me up from school, like, Dad, what happened? Oh, I got into an accident or whatever. But you know, it's a long story. You know what I mean?
I understand. Listen, I got a grandfather from Philadelphia. He used to work for Little Nicky Scarfo. So one of my grandfathers worked for the mob in Philly. Well, I got a lot of heavy stories about our family's involvement in the Philadelphia mob and what was going on in Asbury Park, the bars down there. All them shits is mob owned. Family was on my father's side was caught up in some Philly shit.
Yeah,
So
I know what you mean.
I got a
My father. Sorry to interrupt, but my father had dealings with like the Chicago outfit and the Five Families though. I think it was like the Lucchese's or the Genovese's, one of those two families.
Yeah.
He told me.
Yeah, now
But he also had dealings with the Los Angeles mafia from here though, like here from California.
yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with like, because like people think Los Angeles doesn't have a mafia, but we kind of do. You know, they had dealings with like what?
They came from the east and they set up Vegas.
Yeah, they did. They were the ones
how the
who set
mob got
Vegas.
established.
Yeah, and they had like a good, I wouldn't say good agreement, but they had like business ties with like Hispanic gangs though.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they
yeah.
did. Yeah. So the interesting thing about the mob is, you know where the mob comes. You know what the mob comes out of? Where it originated in America, where the mob started. No, that's the like mafia. I'm saying, so like the original gangs in the Americas, all that started at 5 Points. You know what 5 Points is?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
5 Points is Lower Manhattan. It was New Amsterdam. It was New York. In the 1700s, there's a place called 5 Points. You ever heard of Tammany Hall?
No. But I have seen a lot of documentaries about
go watch the movie Gangs in New York.
Gangs in New York, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, but I was going to say that my father had like a friend. Oh, we used to consider him as a friend, but not anymore. But he was a two-faced motherfucker, though. His name was, he was half Cuban, half Palestinian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say his real name, but he was a piece of shit. He worked in the union, but he was an executive though.
Okay.
He had dealings with the Genovese family, but he disappeared in Arizona
Yeah,
and stuff.
he will disappear. So all those groups grew out of the politics that was happening in Lower Manhattan, right? So Lucky Luciano and Al Capone spent a lot of time in their youth in the Five Points. Lucky Luciano went on to establish the mafia in New York, and we know what Al Capone went on to do.
Yeah.
In Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, they're part of the history books, man. I mean, my
yeah,
father had ties with
a
mobsters
lot of that, and a lot of that,
in the Midwest area.
yeah, a lot of that has to do with a time period and what was going on in a specific place. And all this has to do with a part of history that has kind of been sleighted of hand, and people look at it, but they don't really know what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
If you can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They've hidden a lot of things right in your face, and I ain't talking no abo shit. I'm talking about different wars that took place pre United States. You understand? It's a lot of things that took place up here in the East that people don't necessarily know about. They know about the Pequot massacre. They don't know about a lot of the other massacres that took place. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
That had a lot to
I
do
see what
with
you're saying.
It had a lot to do with the forging and the formation of the United States. And when you talk about the mafia, the role they played in this is, you know what I mean, way bigger than, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they play a heavy role in a lot of what happened to not just African, but Indian families too.
Yeah. I remember my dad. Well, he'll never forget that experience though. Basically, but you know, it's a hell of a long story though. But you know, they don't, like, according to my father, they don't do business with unions no more.
With
because the
who?
unions are like,
Oh, unions?
oh yeah, unions. Now they're like in bed with like cartels and other criminal organizations in other countries though, because they make a lot more money than unions. So there's no interest on making money on unions no more though. Now it's just white collar criminals that are doing that for now.
Mm-hmm. Cartels are just corporations that don't give the corporate nations, don't cut them in. Cartels is corporations though. Cartel ain't no different than Johnson and Johnson. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
It really ain't.
I know what you mean.
They make drugs, they ship them around the world.
Well, I gotta go eat, man. I'm gonna eat some salmon today. But
Yeah,
nice
go ahead with your business.
Where's the receipt? Yeah.
All right, bro. Peace.
The receipt is in the
All right. Dr. Andy, stop by. Good for you, Dr. Andy. All right. Illegal corporations, peace. Rip shop in the building. What up? Let me get back to this, man. I was just about to sit back and burn and listen to this video. Oh boy, popped in, so
one of the things that
had a little conversation.
When I make reference to indigenous people is how do we prefer to be called? What do you call a Native American? And there are a lot of people who have become sensitive to using the term American Indian, and so people are very interested and concerned because they don't want to offend. The sad thing is that I really can't answer the question, and the reason is because
And if there's any disgruntled abo out there that wants to pop in and have a conversation, we can really just have a conversation. Whatever questions you want to ask, if I can answer them, I will answer your questions for you. I'll put the sarcasm away.
It's not because I necessarily think that it's historically accurate, but because that is how we refer to ourselves at the national and federal level.
I know y'all starting to figure out that these people who is doing the most talking know the least.
Because that's the term.
I know y'all starting to figure that shit out.
That is the term that is used in federal Indian law. And so we often use that. I have no problem with that term. There are some who do. Native American actually tend to apply to anyone who's born here. And so there are some indigenous people, tribal people, who don't necessarily want to use that either. First Nations people is used in Canada, and often you'll hear that term being used here in the United States. But the best way to refer to a person who's indigenous is to find out what tribe they're from and to refer to them as being part of that tribe.
That's it.
So if
Simple.
you were to ask me what I am, I would say I'm Nanticoke, Lenape. As we continue, the Nanticoke, Lenape people actually are a combination of two tribes that have a history in the region. And the Lenape, or the original people, referred to as the grandfathers of the ancient ones.
So this is the group that the neophyte Moors tried to bring into the confusion. This is one of the groups that was labeled Moors for a while. This is actually one of the groups that went by, it took on the title of Moor when it was safer to be a Moor than it is to be an Indian. Right? That actually did happen with them. And then most recently, they, in order, because they got actual state recognition now. They actually sued the state for state recognition, but they had to do it under their actual titles. So they got rid of the Moor title 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But this is the actual tribe that they try to say are the Delaware Moors. So that's why I thought it was relevant to allow this man to speak for himself.
Are actually the ancestors of many of the Algonquian-speaking tribal nations. In fact, our claim is that we're the ancestors of all of the Algonquian-speaking tribal nations. There are tribes that refer to us as the ancient ones. I was traveling, representing my tribe at the national meeting, and one of the chiefs of the Ottawa in the Great Lakes saw my name tag, and he was old enough to be my father, but referred to me as one of the ancient ones because they acknowledged our tribe as the ancient root from which their tribe sprang. One of the things that people get confused about is that I'll be using the term Lenape or Lenape, and people have also heard about the Delaware Indians. Well, that's the name that was given to our people by the British because we were by the Delaware River and Bay that the British had renamed after the governor of Virginia, the British governor of Virginia, Lord Delaware. So the Indians down the river were called Delaware, and the Indians around the bay were called the Delaware Bay Indians. And so that name kind of stuck and is maintained and kept, especially by those who were forced further and further west and are now out in Oklahoma. That is the tribal name that they often will use. The Nanticoke actually from the Delmarva Peninsula originally, and they came from the Lenape in ancient times. And the Nanticoke territory was across the central Delmarva. And so the two tribes, not only having historically been related, but also at the time of contact and dealing with colonization, intermingled yet again, and intermarriage happened. And our families of the Nanticoke and Lenape are a combination of the two tribes. The traditional Lenape territory extended from the southwestern portion of Connecticut, southeastern portion of New York, all of New Jersey, the portion of Pennsylvania that it borders the Delaware River, and into northern Delaware down to the other side of the bay. Our people survived the early colonial incursion, but it was with great difficulty. One of our chiefs said, for every one of the Europeans that gets off one of the great boats, 9 of our people died. We died through disease that we had no resistance to. We died through conflicts. And so our population was greatly diminished within the first 100 years of contact. During that time period, however, in the early stages, we maintained dominance in the region, and we were the ones that actually hosted the New Sweden colony and had treaties and gave land grants to the Swedes, also to the Dutch, and then to the English. We had some conflict with the Dutch, and our Nanticoke ancestors actually had some conflict with the English, but we did not have any conflict with the Swedes. New Sweden was in southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, northern Delaware, and was replaced more or less by the English when they came. One of the things that a lot of people don't know about is the doctrine of discovery, which was the backdrop, the philosophy, the mentality of many of the colonists that came here. It is based in papal bulls from the 1400s, and we see that it was it gave permission to any Christian monarch to lay claim to lands that were not held by another Christian monarch, and to actually vanquish and enslave the non-Christian inhabitants. And so when the colonial powers initially began to lay claim to the Americas, this was the backdrop that they had in how they could make those claims. And while there were land grants and treaties cut, they tended to be in accordance with the traditions of those that were arriving, as opposed to the traditions of those who held the land. For my people, the concept of land ownership was very different. The Creator actually owned the land. We were the stewards over the land, but they were given to us to possess, and that we had an obligation to care for and share with those who came among us and respected that relationship. And so really the concept of selling was very foreign to us, selling land. What the concept that we held to was that you would have to renew your relationship on a regular basis to live and stay upon the land which the Creator had given us to possess. So a lot of people talk about how the Lenape
that's your gatherings
for some beads and trinkets, and that really wasn't the case, because in our tradition it was never sold. It was a reaffirmation of the agreement that the colonists could dwell and live in our territory, and that had to be renewed through gift-giving diplomacy. So very different understanding of land tenure that caused.
And that's an ancient right. Like I said, if you read about, go read the Sumerian texts and things like that, and they'll talk about how once a year communities would come together to settle differences and to renew their agreements. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of tradition all over the world. You know what I mean? This is where you get these holidays and celebrations from. What Thanksgiving is about. Coming together, renewing your bonds, and whatever issues you had over the year, you crush it so you can start the new year or the new cycle off, peaceful, balanced.
Quite a bit of confusion and difficulty. Some of the early dealings, however, with the English were with the Quakers down in South Jersey. There was a time when New Jersey was actually two colonies, East Jersey and West Jersey. The southern portion of the state was primarily called West Jersey. Our people initially had a pretty good relationship with the Quaker community that came in, and with John Fenwick and the Fenwick colony, who established treaties with our chiefs back in the 1670s. By the 16th, William Penn, the governor of Pennsylvania, the English governor, met with our chiefs, council of chiefs, in a place called Shackamaxon. Today, there is commemorating at a park called Penn Treaty Park in Philadelphia. A lot of people who go there have no idea of the history and the significance. But William Penn met with our chiefs. We had selected a spokesman of the chiefs named Taminent. And the wonderful thing was that William Penn actually learned our ways and understood how we held council meetings and how we cut treaties. So he commissioned a wampum belt to be made, which is a woven belt with cone-shaped shell beads. And patterns would be woven in as a witness or testimony to an agreement or a special event. And so he had a wampum belt made. And of course, according to our tradition, we had one made, and there was an exchange of belts for this Treaty of Amity, where William Penn's design was to live in peace and harmony with the Lenape and to become as though we were one blood. And Chief Taminent indicated that we would keep the treaty as long as the creeks and rivers run and while the sun, moon, and stars endure. The photograph you see is of the wampum belt given by our chiefs to William Penn, and it demonstrates the communion that we were hoping to be able to establish with the Quaker community. Our tribe has kept that treaty, and we still have a relationship with the Quaker community in our area with the Philadelphia Yearly Meeting and the various meeting houses that are connected to it. Unfortunately, William Penn, his sons, violated the treaty with what's called the walking purchase and swindled our chiefs out of a huge swath of land in Pennsylvania. Something that is not touchable. Beg pardon? Something.
Go ahead.
Something that is not well known is that our people actually were hunted for profit. In 1678 in the Maryland colony, which included Delaware at the time, an enemy Indian was anyone who did not cry aloud and give some sign of surrender if they came within 300 paces of an Englishman's cleared ground, or if an English person came upon them as they were walking in the woods, or if an Englishman saw them and they were painted, in other words, had some ceremonial paint upon them because they were involved in ceremony, and they didn't immediately lay down any weapons that they may have been carrying. Anyone that fell into these three categories was declared an enemy and could be killed by any of the English colonists and get a bounty. And by 1763, the bounty was as high as 50 pounds, which was a significant amount of money in that day. And there was no distinguishing between the elderly or the young men, women, or children. There were quite a few of our people that fell because of this policy. The first reservations were actually established here in the East. I know a lot of people, when they think about American Indian reservations, they think about being out in the Great Plains or in the Southwest, but actually the earliest ones were here in the Northeast. And the oldest continuous powwow was on an old reservation up in Rhode Island with the Narragansett. There are reservations that have continued from the colonial area up in New York and down in Virginia. And there were reservations in Maryland and Delaware, and there was an official reservation here in New Jersey called Brotherton in Burlington County, and there were many unofficial, locally established reservations that were commonly referred to in the early days of the colonial era as Indian towns or Indian fields, where our people were supposed to be able to live unaccosted. By and large, the reservations failed. Our land was coveted by the new colonists, and they began to push us further and further off the land that had been set aside. We were blessed in southern New Jersey because of the relationship that we had with the Quaker community, and also those that were further south had relationships locally that we were able to stay. I'll talk a little more about that. But by 1740, what's interesting is the vast number of Nanticoke and Lenape people were pushed out of this area. They were continuously pushed further and further west. They would go into Pennsylvania and settle, and then they would be pushed further because of the desire for land by the colonial powers and later by the federal powers, so much so that there are many Lenape people now living out in Oklahoma with 2 federally recognized tribes, a tribe up in Wisconsin that has our people, mostly those that were along the Muncie, the northern part, and also those that were part of the disbanded Brotherton reservations in central New Jersey, wound up with that community up in Wisconsin, and many of our people wound up in Canada also. And there are continuing communities there, Lenape or Delaware people. Those of us who remained wound up being reclassified. In the mid-1740s, the definition of Indian began to change because the local authorities did not want to have to honor any continuing treaties. And the easiest way to do that was to say there was no one with which they needed to keep a treaty. So they began to reclassify us. So an Indian was reclassified as a non-Christian living in the woods and eating primarily deer meat. And that meant that any of my ancestors that had adopted Christianity, had been baptized, were living in a European-style home and eating chicken and pig, they were suddenly no longer considered Indians, and they were reclassified as free persons of color, mulatto instead of Indian. Those also that they're in Delaware, they went even further in 1770 and defined an Indian as someone who was living far away from the state of Delaware. So we see that there was a push to reclassify our people, and this misclassification continued in other public records straight into the modern era, so much so that as recently as 2007, in a study that was conducted by executive order here in the state of New Jersey, there are tribal families that talked about having their children's school registration changed by school officials when they checked off that they were actually members of the tribes that are recognized by the state. One of the things that occurred back in the 1800s into the 1900s that is a horrible mark on American history is the Indian boarding school system. In the 1880s, it was established along the model of the prisoner of war camps during the Civil War. The one, probably the most infamous one, was the Carlisle Indian School in Pennsylvania, which is now part of the War College. At that school, many Indian children were taken, some by force, some by coercion, and they were placed in the school. Their hair was cut, their regalia was taken, they had to wear uniforms, they weren't able to use their tribal names, they were given alternative names, they were not allowed to use their tribal language, they could be severely punished physically. Many of them died, and their families never knew what happened to them. The graveyard depicted here is the graveyard of many of the Indian children who died at the Carlisle School. The little handcuffs that you see, which obviously could only fit on the wrists of children, that was from the Haskell Indian School, where some of my relatives went out in Kansas. This is a continuing issue. It's a painful issue. Just recently, both Canada and the United States began to uncover mass graves around these Indian schools and are trying to identify remains and return them to their home tribes. People wonder, are there tribes in New Jersey, and don't all Indians live on reservations? Well, certainly that's not the case. As of the 2010 census, 78% of American Indians don't live in so-called American Indian areas. They don't live on reservations. And in New Jersey at that time, 12 years ago, there were 70,000 people who had American Indian or of Indian descent here in New Jersey, and our chiefs, the number's probably significantly higher. There are 3 state-recognized tribes in New Jersey with an estimated citizenship count in 2010 of 6,000, and it's high there even now. The tribes that are in our region are the Ramapo Lenape Nation up in the north. Their people are on the border between New Jersey and New York. That's a tribe that is legally recognized here in New Jersey. The Sand Hill Indians are a small community of Cherokee and Lenape people they're not state recognized, but they're historically well documented, and the state recognized tribes acknowledge them. The Powhatan Lenape, they are Virginia Indians that moved up into this area in the 1800s and married remaining Lenape families, and they're in Burlington and Camden County. The Nanticoke Lenape tribal nation is the southernmost tribe in New Jersey, but is very closely related to the two state-recognized tribes in Delaware. And that
So let me stop it right there. So, to people who don't understand what he just said to you, I will tell it to you in a more clear manner. Okay. So, he introduced the Ramapo, which is probably the most well-known of the New Jersey tribes. And they're well-known because of the controversy over whether or not they are a New Jersey tribe. That's been the ongoing controversy of the Ramapo. Then he mentioned the Sandhill, right, which is my people. It's a small group of Cherokee and Lenape still in the area. They're not state recognized, but they're recognized by the state recognized tribes. Then they went to talk about the Watton tribe and the Cherokee tribes. And then they finished off with themselves saying that they're close related to the tribe in Delaware. Yes, because they're actually the Nanticoke. They come from the Tidewater area, and even they migrated into New Jersey. So what's being said to you is that the reason why the three state recognized tribes recognize the Sandhill is because the Sandhill is the oldest tribe in New Jersey. And in fact, the only tribe that is technically from New Jersey. The other tribes are groups that either migrated into the area or groups that formulated as tribes after New Jersey was established. The Sandhill have agreements and treaties with Britain and with the colonists that predate even New Jersey. So that's what makes us the unique tribe out of all the New Jersey tribes. And if you see the chart here, they have a star by where our tribe is, right? So this is why we're able to not be state recognized, but still move around the way we move, because historically we're the ones that signed the treaties and the agreements with the actual colonizers who established these towns and these boroughs. So that's where we're protected. Those are our treaties. They can't write us out, because by writing us out, they dissolve what it is they have. You understand? So that's why we're in the position we're in. This is why we don't, this is why we're not federally funded, because then that would take our power away from us. We'd be incorporated into the state or the United States, which would take away our ability to have international relationships with tribes all over the world, primarily Canada and South America. But we'll get into that later. Right? We're going to show y'all how we digging up out of this. It's a place for everybody. We can find a place for everybody.
That's the Lenape Indian tribe of Delaware and the Nanticoke Indian tribe of Delaware. We're all essentially the same people. The surnames repeat. Everybody else's cousin, just about. Intermarriage has been occurring between those communities for a couple of 100 years. The original people of the Delaware Bay region are the Nanticoke, Lenape, and on our little crest it says we are all family.
The Delaware Bay
because
region.
our families have been highly documented as essentially being indistinguishable. We have intermarried for so many years that we are all related to one another. Our tribes are the tribes that have continued around the Delaware Bay, what we call the Nanticoke region. And we were called the Bay Indians by the British. The Nanticoke Lenape communities are extremely well documented, and we lived in Indian towns with many of our ancestors living on those reservations that wound up being disbanded on the Delmarva Peninsula. And what's interesting about the Nanticoke Lenape is that in southern New Jersey, the families are still in the area that was part of the Indian Fields or Indian Town in Bridgeton, and in the area of Bridgeton and its surroundings. That land had been set aside initially by the Quaker community when our people couldn't have deeded land. And eventually we were able to acquire those deeds, and our families have been in that area since the early 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, living on those very same Indian fields and documented to have been there all of that time. Our families have attended some of those Indian boarding schools and have been highly documented in federal and state regional records going back into the 1700s. The reason that our people were able to stay is actually a story that's repeated up and down the East Coast for many of the communities of first and early contact. And that is, we were Christianized early on and established our own institutions. The churches became the core of our tribal community. And our people established their own schools and their own churches in the early 1800s. Many of our families were Christianized in the 1600s and 1700s, but had our own institution in the 1800s, and the leadership of the church became the leadership of the tribe. The identity of the church was so central to the tribal community that when there were demographic shifts, there were often church splits to maintain control of tribal governance. The three churches that you see here, the top one is in Millsboro, Delaware. It is the Indian Mission Church in Millsboro, Delaware. All three are United Methodist churches. The central one and the northern one is that. So that the one on top is for the Nanticoke community, and the central part is from the Lenape Indian tribe in Delaware. It is the Emmanuel Church, and that served as the hub of tribal activity for many generations, actually. And the picture in the at the bottom is the St. John's United Methodist Church in Fortville, which is just outside of Bridgeton, and that is the historic church here in New Jersey. So each of these churches are acknowledged as Indian churches, both by the state and by the denomination.
See, so
in the late
now, when you talk about these abos, all right, they're not going to be able to get into any type of real conversations about historically who they are, nor what's going on right now in their communities. This man that I'm playing this video of is the very same man I'm sitting with in this picture. Because we are all literally communities. You heard him say it earlier. This is what's going on from New England down to Virginia. It's pockets of these communities that are actually living the culture as best as we can, continuing on, passing on our history, learning our language. I'll show you something else soon. When we talk about what we're doing with our language, it's the difference between Turtle Gang and the rest of anybody else who talks about this I'm gonna show and prove it to you. If I say I know these people, I'm at least gonna show you a picture of me with them people. But I'm gonna do way more than that. But at the least, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm playing this man's audio, and I'm showing you I have a relationship with this man. Because we are all Lenape from Jersey. We interact with each other. We see each other at least once a year. That's how it is for Indians in New Jersey. Even people that ain't in your community, if they're Indian, you're going to see them at least once or twice a year. Probably about 3 or 4 times in a short span, because you're going to keep running to them at the gatherings that are had. It's about 20 of them a summer. So, of course, you don't get to make it to all of them. But you make it to enough where you are a regular and everyone knows you. And that's kind of how you're known in the greater community, which would be the Eastern Woodlands. And then you're known within your immediate community for the work you're doing with your nation. Right? And as that nations interact with nations, this is how you get known in other nations. If you're active. If you're not active, doesn't mean anything. Right? I'm telling you, these abos, they're not even a part of no communities, let alone being in a community but not being active. The stuff we've been sharing is from people who play active roles in their community, active roles in their governments, whether people want to confuse us with the rest of these people playing or not, right? We out here doing what we can to maintain our culture, and at the same time striving to mend and heal, you know what I mean, from the traumas that we suffered from the transatlantic slave trade. You know what I mean? From oppression, from all the things that happened to both our African ancestors and our Indian ancestors. And unfortunately, motherfuckers have turned this shit into some type of fucking show. But that's what colonization do. It's like you can't even, yeah, we could be mad, but motherfuckers is sick. And eventually, all these gay ass niggas is gonna realize they smoking the TV. Niggas gonna realize, damn. I remember I knew this dude from Red Bank. Me and my man Will was getting off work one day, coming out the hospital. And we see this nigga, and we ain't seen this nigga in like 8 months. And ain't never seen him looking healthy and shit. Will was like, yo, bro, damn, nigga, I thought you was dead. Nigga told him, I thought you was dead, nigga. We ain't seen you, thought you was dead, nigga. This nigga was a crackhead, dope head nigga. You know, nigga disappeared for months. Figured that nigga was dead. This motherfucker said, nah, man, I had to get off that shit. He was like, oh shit, that's what's good. Where you go? He said, I ain't going nowhere. He said, nigga said, I looked in the mirror and looked at myself and saw myself. He said, I kicked that shit in one day. Nigga said he kicked his drug habit in one day. I ain't saying he ain't have withdrawals on it. He just saying he ain't do no more drugs after that. You know what I mean? And it took him however long to get right again. He was healthy again, looking good. We damn near ain't recognize him. But until these motherfucking junkies and these, until they realize they got some issues, it's gonna be hard for them to fucking grow and heal and move forward. Because I'm trying to tell you, these niggas want to smoke. And I'm the one to give it to them. They've been begging for the smoke. And I'm like, all right, this is what you want. I'm going to give y'all a motherfucking smoke. Every one of them. And I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to give it to them in the language they speak. I'm about to bring the smoke. undeniable. I don't even think they know what smoke is.
Later 1800s, there began to be some demographic shifts. As I said, they call it some church splits. By the middle to the latter 1900s, the demographic shifts were significant enough that the government of the tribes came out of the church, and the people organized tribal councils, elected tribal councils and chiefs. The first to do that were the Nanticoke down in Delaware, and the older photograph in the upper left-hand corner of your screen are of Nanticoke representatives, and there is a Mohican anthropologist. The lady there is Gladys Nanticoke, who was a Mohican anthropologist that accompanied them as they were representing the tribe to the Delaware legislature. Our tribe reorganized it began the process in the 60s and finished in the 70s, and we organized with an elected council outside of the church community. And that lower picture on the left-hand side is of those that reorganized the tribe. Our chiefs.
So, this is the Nanticoke Lenape. They began the process of reorganization in the 60s. It started with 4 people: Chief Gould, sisters, and I believe one of their husbands. 4 people began the process of galvanizing not just their family, but their tribe. By the 70s, they were moving in the direction they needed to do, and they ended up getting recognition by 2018. So that's like a 40-year process, right? So for those of you who are really talking about putting your tribe back on, I'm not saying it's going to take y'all 40 years, but there's a blueprint, there's a model, and we started off by 4 people. You understand? But you got to understand, this wasn't 4 people creating a brand new tribe. It was 4 people bringing their tribe back together. But that's what they did. And guess what? As they did that, the other tribes in the area stepped up and assisted them. How do I know the other tribes in the area stepped up and assisted them? Because my tribe was the tribe that stepped up and assisted them. And if people need proof for that, we have the New Jersey Bureau of Indian Affairs meeting where it's being discussed. So, yeah, it's just official. It's just official. So here you got the Nanticoke going in the 1960s. We're running around here by the title Moors. Decided to get their shit together, drop that name, and start to navigate once again as the Nanticoke. Took them some time, but they are now state recognized in New Jersey. All right? Like I said, that's one blueprint. You got these abos trying to tell you this and tell you that, talking crazy. They ain't showing you no remedies. Talking crazy, and they trying to punch holes in reality. So they can't show you no reality. So right now, they got you niggas in the what if Marvel universe. These niggas got you really believing fucking Captain America is a woman. Like they really got you in the what if universe.
Now are elected. The council is elected. They serve for a period of time. The photograph of the gentleman on the right-hand side is our immediate past chief, Mark Gould, who served as chief for about 40 years. Our culture is not stuck in the past, but we honor our traditions, we honor the past, and we try to pass on those traditions to future generations. Our people participate in the traditional dances that are unique to our individual tribal communities, the Lenape and the Nanticoke. And we also participate in what are called powwow or pan-Indian style dances that come from various tribes and often are used in powwows so that people from different traditions have dances in common that they can dance together. At our Indian style powwows, our Indian powwows are open to the public, and they're a time when our culture is on full display. Our arts and crafts, our food, and our dances, sometimes even dance competition for money, where there are prizes. And ours takes place in June. I'll tell you a little more about that as the presentation goes on. All of the photographs that you see here are from our people and powwows from the past. Our community continues honoring our elders and focusing in on passing these traditions to the future. The elders are extremely high, they are highly respected in our community. There's very little that is done without their approval. They are the keepers of the traditions, the keepers of the heritage, and they are honored and respected. And our children are prized, and we try to raise them up with an understanding of who they are. There was a time when our people were very concerned about letting outsiders know about who we were, or letting outsiders do much in regard to studying us, because at the time when I was growing up and years prior, it was thought that the outside community would do harm to us. We were persecuted by the Ku Klux Klan. We were within the living memory of elders that I knew that have passed on now, but within their living memory, they remembered the last removals, which happened in the 1920s in South Jersey, where some of our people were taken out west. And there was this fear when we reorganized in the 70s that if they had their names on an enrollment roll that was passed over to the federal government, that the government would find a way to take their homes and push them out west to a reservation. So for many years, the community had the reputation of being very clannish and self-isolating. It's only been, I'd say, within the past 30, 35 years that we've seen a relaxing of that. And our young people are extremely active in celebrating the heritage out in the public and out in the open. And that's what you see here. The young ladies that are standing under the unity sign were our representatives that went to the National Organization of Tribal Youth that is related to the National Congress of American Indians that I mentioned earlier that I'm part of. Something that is an interesting bit of history is because New Sweden was in our territory, we have a continuing treaty relationship with the nation of Sweden. And the royal family, when they come into the area, they hold audience with our chiefs. This is a photograph of Chief Mark Gould, the recent past chief, who is shaking the hand of the King of Sweden.
Now, the same way they still have treaty rights with Sweden, the Sandhills still have treaty rights with Great Britain. My chief can sit with, can't go sit with, he couldn't have got one guns out with the Queen, but he could sit with the delegate that represents the Queen in England if he requests, because they remember the agreement we had. And remember, Britain was their subjects betrayed them. You know what I'm saying? So Britain and the Lenape never had no issues. In fact, we were on the same team in terms of what was going on in the revolution, the coup of the nation. And there's been multiple coups. It's been multiple coups, coup on top of coup on top of coup. JFK, by the time the JFK assassination, that was probably like the 4th or 5th coup that happened. Right? That's why I talked about Tammany Hall and Lower Manhattan. Like, you know what a coup is, right? Motherfucking Boston Tea Party. These are events that happen where relationships were sabotaged so motherfuckers could seize power. And it happened multiple times. Right? The revolution was one of them. One group crossed another group, take power. You know what I mean? It happened with the Iroquois. Iroquois crossed another group to take power. Right? It happened with Brother Onus. Brother Onus crossed their brother so they could take power. See what I'm saying? The Odd Fellows were conspiring against Britain so they could take power. Then the Order of the Red Men were conspiring against, you know what I'm saying? So they could run the country secretly. Yeah. All these little groups keep splintering. And this is what we call politics. All these groups were there from the beginning and they kept splintering. So you hear of a group not knowing that that's just that same group that came out of the Sons of Liberty, the Knights of Tammany, you know what I mean? Came out of the Dead Rabbits, came out of all these old gangs and political organizations, of which, yes, the nativists was one of them, right? And they called themselves the Native Americans, the nativists. That doesn't mean the term Native and American in itself doesn't apply to someone who's native to America. Just because an organization was created and called themselves Native Americans doesn't discount that term is still applicable to people who are born in America. That's just a side little thing. But yeah, it's so much shit that happened that because I know when I talk to motherfuckers, they don't even realize that shit. They'll talk about a time frame in United States history and talk right over the juicy part. I'm like, hold up, how y'all missed that? Wait, hold up. How we get to the end of this motherfucker? When did they, you know what I mean? When did they kill the motherfucker? When did they kill them? When did they catch the nigga? When did they catch the motherfucker? We've been watching the whole movie. When did they catch him? Something happened. We at the end of the movie, credits is rolling. This nigga's locked up. What the fuck happened? That's how these motherfuckers tell the story. Like, hold up. Y'all missed that whole part. Y'all missed the coup. How y'all telling the story and you miss the coup? That's the best part. That's the part that keep you on point. The plot change. If you niggas missing the plot change, the plot twist, how are you even understanding the story? And that's why these niggas in here trying to turn white people into slaves, and the oppressors are the black people who are now hiding behind the white people because they're confused about King James and them motherfuckers being they're confused that black people came here as Europeans. So because they associate Europeans with white people who are the oppressors, they now associate black people who are Europeans with white people that are the oppressors. But now they're finding out that those black people who are Europeans that came over here were coming over here because they were fleeing oppression. So now they got to clean their shit up because they've been talking this fucking black European shit and came over here to take over. Now as they keep digging into the history books, they're realizing, oh, these black Europeans that was coming over here that we've been talking shit about, them motherfuckers was fleeing. Them niggas was getting their shit taken and all types of shit. And they was coming to America to say their goddamn lives. They wasn't coming over here to take no shit over. They was coming over here to get love. Yeah. Motherfuckers start reading the book, get the 3rd chapter and start running their goddamn mouth. Read the whole fucking book before you fucking go running in the streets trying to teach about the fucking book. Nigga came on some shit the other night talking about, this shit. Motherfucker said the Titanic was full of black people. All those people in the Titanic were wealthy black people. I'm like, hold up. So we just flip-flopping everything now. And then the motherfucker said the Titanic left from New York. I'm like, oh, this nigga's listening. I'm like, how are you saying this shit out your mouth? I don't think they could read. Something wrong with them. There's something definitely wrong with them. Where do you get, hold up. And they say it. I'm like, damn, is this nigga right? Let me Google this shit. Titanic left from New York, man. It's full of black people. I'm like, hold on. We got to. How do we fact check this shit? Who is fact checking this shit? Let's see. (1912) Titanic route. What route? Her voyage from Southampton. See, these niggas read Southampton and just stopped. What was your shit come from Southampton? You know the Titanic came from New York. That shit coming from New York. You know it came from New York. It's full of black people. Her voyage was from Southampton across the Channel to Cherbourg, then to Queenstown, nowadays Coburg, the port of Cork, then out into the Atlantic towards New York. She struck an iceberg off of Newfoundland and sunk 2 hours later. Now, where do these niggas get that the Titanic left from New York full of black people, the richest black people? See, they looking for a coup where there ain't a goddamn coup. I mean, it was a coup, but it wasn't no coup on no black people. No rich, what the fuck? And I'm like, hold up. So hold up. Nobody on this live is simply putting a couple words together for Google. Siri, can you Google the route that the Titanic took? That's all it takes. Siri will pull that shit up and she'll be like, it left from Southampton. See, but them niggas stop right there. Like, see, I told you it's Southampton in New York. Yeah, all this shit here is named after all the shit there. Like, and it's documented. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is really New York. And it really was New Amsterdam. Meaning, if it's the new, there must be an old. Or else, why would it just be Amsterdam? Amsterdam, nigga. Damn, nigga. You sound like you think like you grew up in Amsterdam. Fucking brain smoked out. So once again, what route did the Titanic take in 1812? Let's make sure it's the same Titanic. These motherfuckers will tell you it's a couple of different Titanics and shit. I don't fucking know. Her voyage was from Southampton, not Southampton, New York, across the Channel, Cherbourg, then to Queenstown, not Queens, New York, nigga. nowadays Coba, the port of Cork, then out into the Atlantic Ocean towards New York. She struck an iceberg off of Newfoundland and sank 2 hours later. This motherfucker ain't getting nowhere. Where does this bitch get to? This bitch barely got, it got about 3/4 of the way. No, 2/3 of the way and sunk. Did not get anywhere near New York. These motherfuckers been taking losses. After losses. After losses.
This is not a water bottle.
After losses.
Bottles that flavors ordinary waters from scent using flavor pots.
After losses.
My own children helped to open the Swedish embassy in Washington, D.C. when their new embassy was completed in Georgetown. And that is a relationship that we highly prize.
Loss.
There's some differences, there's a uniqueness to being indigenous that a lot of Americans don't appreciate. For non-indigenous people, their cultural heritage exists somewhere else. And regardless of how it may be suppressed here, how an individual family may not want to continue that identity and change their name or whatever, that culture, that heritage they have exists somewhere else on some other continent. That is not the case for the indigenous cultures. If our cultures are suppressed, it will lead to the extinction of those valuable cultural traits and traditions and stories off the planet. For non-indigenous groups, your self-identity is accepted. Whatever you say you are, that's what you are. People tend not to question it. However, for indigenous people, you have to have the ability to prove yourself as acknowledged by non-native authorities. If you are not indigenous, you have a choice to be part of this melting pot that is America, with the exception of the victims of American slavery. Whereas it was actually the policy of the United States to destroy Indian cultures and Indian governments. Tribal sovereignty is extremely important and often misunderstood by non-tribal people. It is the ability for tribes to truly govern themselves, to determine their membership, to set their own laws and practices to protect their own territory. And this is something that American Indian tribes have inherently. It is not given by the federal government. In fact, our tribes predate the federal government, and so does our tribal sovereignty. One of the policies that is well expressed in Felix Cohen's Federal Indian Law, which is a standard guide for federal Indian law here in the United States, is that the American Indian tribes were known to and understood to be distinct independent political communities, and they can exercise powers of self-government not by virtue of any delegation of power from the federal government, but rather by reason of their original tribal sovereignty. Stereotypes that we are constantly working to overcome include the fact that we don't all look like the Hollywood image from the 1950s and 40s cowboy movies. In fact, most of the actors in those movies were not even indigenous. Our cultures vary across the continent, and this concept that all Indians believe one thing or another is completely erroneous. If you get 10 Indian leaders in a room to talk about a given issue, you'll come up with 10 different perspectives and opinions, just like with any other people. There are some common values that we have, some common traditions that we have that are held dear across the continent, but there are a lot of differences, both regionally and tribes, and even within clans, within tribes, there are differences. Not all tribes want or have casinos. There is this stereotype that all American Indian tribes have when they were trying to get a casino, and that's not true. Actually, most tribes don't have them, and other ones that don't, many don't want them. And our tribe is one of them. By tribal law and tradition, we refuse to profit from any form of vice because our spiritual values teach us that will have a negative impact on our people. What we wear our traditional dress is not called a costume. I know that you can find some books where it's referred to that way, but actually that's an insulting term. When a tribal person puts on their traditional dress, it's called regalia, and regalia expresses who you actually are. A costume is what you put on to pretend to be something you're not. Our culture, as I said before, is not stuck in the past. We have continued traditions, but we also evolve, just like any other culture. I recently saw expressions that look so much like modern art, it was surprising. People on basketball sneakers and everything. So it does evolve, and it continues to evolve. There are tribal rappers that incorporate tribal tradition into their rap. Not my cup of tea, but just as a demonstration that we're not stuck in the past. We're not relics of the past. And indigenous cultures, as we evolve and change, those things eventually become some of our traditions over the generations if they are maintained. Just to give you a little understanding of who these people are in the photograph, up in the upper left-hand corner is Chief Quiet Thunder. He was a chief of our tribe many years ago, just recently passed on. The woman at the bottom that is handing gifts to some of the spectators that came to one of our events, that's my wife. And she is a tribal historian and has shared the culture with me. And the young lady wearing a crown is my daughter, who served as a tribal princess for 2 terms and directed the youth program for quite some time for our tribe. And what I need to clarify, when I say tribal princess, I'm not talking about the way people talk about Indian princesses. Within our tribe, that is an elected position as a youth ambassador, where they serve to represent the tribe to the larger community and also at the national and international level. 27 states make no mention of a single Native American in the K-12 curriculum. 87% of states fail to cover Native people's history after 1900. And this leaves a void that creates a problem, allowing stereotypes and harmful images and inaccurate portrayals to thrive that ultimately do violence to our people. Those that are interested in trying to figure out how to make a difference have the opportunity to do so, and you have the opportunity tonight by educating yourself to share what you've learned both tonight and perhaps in other settings to dispel some of the stereotypes and to let people know that, yes, there are American Indian tribes right here in New Jersey. Also to encourage folk to learn more about us and to encourage those who want to learn more about us to learn more by listening to us. One of the things that has been a problem is that so often we are talked about but not talked to. In September of 2007, the United Nations passed the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and it covers many issues dealing with Indigenous people internationally. Of the 143 nations that voted for the Declaration, there were only a few that voted against it. Among them was the United States. And even though the others wound up falling in line, it wasn't until 2010 that the United States finally signed on to the Declaration, and with all kinds of disclaimers. We're still trying to make sure that the United States keeps its word. And many of our tribes utilize the Declaration in their resolutions and in their laws. They will cite this international standard. For those of you who are interested in getting additional information, if you want to take a snapshot of this particular screen, or perhaps it's something that could be provided later by the library, here are a few sites that you can go to learn a little more about my own people. And also there's information about the New Jersey Commission on American Indian Affairs that was established in 1995. And by law has representatives from each of the tribes that are recognized by the state of New Jersey. I want to thank you for your attention during this presentation. I hope that I didn't bore you or put you to sleep, but I'd love to answer any questions you may have.
So first, let me reassure you that it looks like absolutely nobody left. Nobody left.
Garbage truck.
Am I echoing here?
Doing, man.
Okay, so the first question is, can you comment on concerns by all Indian tribes about the departure of younger generations of Indian teenagers who depart from their traditional tribal culture? For example, traditional Amish people are known to leave their culture. Are children okay, that's the first question. And then I'm going to go to someone else's question, and then I'll come back to the second question. And I just want to say I will be following up with the slides from this presentation to everybody, and a copy of the link for the recording. If you need it fast, be sure to email me and let me know. So back to, can you comment on concerns by all Indian tribes about the departure of younger generations?
I know that one of the concerns is that the opportunities in tribal areas, the opportunities for advancement, for career advancement, often are a challenge. And so what happens is that the community thins out over time. That's been a concern of many of our believers across the country, that as you would say, the best and the brightest don't have an opportunity to achieve their life goals while also staying living in the community and making those contributions.
Still here.
I've also heard about the concern of Indian youth that grew up in areas that were hostile to the culture and did not want to identify with their heritage because of that hostility and persecution. And that's been another issue of wanting not to embrace it because of the trouble that it causes you in your life, based on where you live and what's been happening in that area. That's something that winds up in later generations.
That garbage truck is right outside my window, literally.
Sweet.
Damn.
Well, tomorrow we're gonna file I don't know, a lawsuit against our landlord. It's a long story, but we're gonna file.
So you're gonna file a lawsuit against your landlord?
Yeah, well, it's me and my dad, but it's also our neighbor too.
Best of luck with that.
Yeah, well, he works for a corporation called Nashville or whatever. So
You're gonna work out.
yeah, we're.
You gotta win it. Got to win it. So yeah, this is one of the tribes in New Jersey. We got
New Jersey.
Yeah, we got 3 state recognized.
I have a lot of respect for folks from New Jersey, though, and a lot of respect for folks in the in the East Coast, because they're a lot more educated.
I think what it is, I think we just exposed to more things, more cultures, more, which creates more of a curiosity, which makes us, we exposed to more things, and that just, you know what I mean? That's what it really is. It's just the exposure, it's things that happen faster. So we learn about more things, which creates a level of curiosity.
I know what you mean, man.
You know what I mean?
Hey, what's your opinion on Italian Americans, man? I'm just curious.
On what?
What's your opinion on Italian Americans?
Italian Americans? I think they're people of Italian descent that live in America. All here I think most people that came here, for the most part, the general people came here trying to find a better life for themselves, fleeing whatever the fuck they was trying to get the fuck away from in Europe. I know Italian Americans, they have definitely come in here and, you know, made a mark. Shit. You know what I mean?
Well, they made a mark in South America too.
They made a mark everywhere. I mean, they came in and established, kind of took control of what we would call the underworld. You know what I mean? They ain't created. At one point, they was just like foot soldiers, but they grew. They the ones that remained after the other ones. People like Boss Tweed and these motherfuckers fell apart. That's when the Italian mafia rose. It was just like a little gang at one point, the Italian boys.
Yeah.
And then they turned it. I mean, it's an American story, bro. America is about motherfuckers coming here, getting money, doing whatever they need to do. That's the American story. Now, coming from the indigenous perspective, all these motherfuckers that came here tore shit up. You know what I mean? Like,
true. That's true, man. They tore shit everything up.
From the indigenous perspective, Italians came here, got busy, got rich by any means necessary. You know what I'm
Like I
saying?
said before, they don't have any control over corporations because like corporations are under like a lot of government restrictions though. So they're put on like on a watch list, making sure that there's no shady shit going on with these unions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they figured it all out, bro. Like at this point,
my dad used to work.
Yeah, but at this point, they know how to get legal money. Like, and they still doing what they do, but they know how to get legal money.
Yeah, well,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
my
all
dad
this
used to
shit.
work in a union. Yeah, my dad used to work in a union. He used to be a union organizer though. But, you know, they don't do unions no more. So they left the unions. Yeah, they left the unions for good. Because like unions are under they're regulated now, like government regulated, you know.
Yeah.
So they're put on watch lists basically, but they still got you know, but the people that are taking advantage of those unions are like, you know, white collar criminals, you know, folks from Wall Street and all that other stuff, you know.
Yeah, everybody's in on it, bro. Everybody's taking advantage of somebody. That's what capitalist society is about. That's what this culture is about. Yeah. It's about trying to get the best deal and taking advantage of somebody. If you can get the most out of it, it's giving up and give up the least, you won. That's the world we live in. Ain't nothing equal. You know what I'm saying? One motherfucker could have $1 billion and 1 billion motherfuckers could be homeless.
Oh, that's a good point, though. I mean, your family used to have ties with the mob. Mine's
nah,
too.
We didn't have ties with them. Them motherfuckers took our shit. Them and
they sure as hell did.
Them in the state, you know, where I'm from, Jersey Shore, that's prime real estate. It's the beachfront property. It's where all the boardwalks is at. This was all land.
I'm from like Los Angeles, California, though. And we're next door to Vegas.
Well, then you know. Well, I don't know about Vegas is in the desert. I ain't talking about.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about
Vegas is in the desert, you know.
Yeah, Vegas in the desert. They put that shit out there because they was about to build a fucking city that was predicated on illegal gambling. So they put that bitch out in the middle of nowhere. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the reason why they put it there in the desert is to just stress out law enforcement, though, because it's hot as hell over there in Vegas.
Yeah, that shit is just out in the middle of nowhere. It became a big city. It initially started as a little strip. But yeah, nah, out here it's a little different, bro. This shit was always, as soon as motherfuckers touched down, they wanted this shit.
Yeah.
Just because of the ports. There's a lot of ports out there, all the big ports.
So,
shipping. It's where money's made, bro. Vegas is where money made too.
What is your opinion on the Choctaw, or like the 5 civilized tribes, though?
So I don't really have no opinion on them. I just know the history. Now, when you know the history, you understand that.
Yeah. Well, I know a dude who's Choctaw. You know.
All right.
He works in like. Yeah, he worked. I forget his real. His name is like. He goes by his online vigilante nickname, Real Choctaw, because he was a vigilante at one point. Though.
Yeah, I heard of him. I've seen him on people's shows before. You know what I mean?
He's like Batman, to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know what he is.
I compare him to Batman, though. Like, you ever seen that cartoon, Batman the Animated Series, or Batman Animated Adventures, or whatever?
Yeah, I seen it.
Yeah. But he's not rich, though. You know, he works in he used to work in the camera room. Mm-hmm. That's what I heard. That's what he told me. He used to, what? Sorry, I thought my brother was talking to me. He used to work in the camera room, you know, and there's like a mini fridge in his office or whatever. You know, you could fill up candy or soda or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then on the desk there's like a microwave oven and stuff, so you can microwave your leftovers or whatever, you know. And he used to live stream in that room. He'll like take out his laptop and like live stream on his duty, you know. But he doesn't do it no more. You know? Mm. He drives a patrol car for now. That's what he drives.
All right. So you asked me about 5 civilized tribes, right?
Correct.
And I hear a lot of people talk about the 5 civilized tribes as if people can't separate the politics of a government with the individual people, right? So people will say, oh, well, the 5 civilized tribes had slaves. So should we be condemning people who say they're members of the 5 civilized tribes? Well, I say this. During the Vietnam War, the majority of citizens of the United States were opposed to the Vietnam War, right? But the government said we going to war, right? So while the people of the nation were against the war, the government said, fuck that, we going. So do we condemn the nation of people for the decision that the government made? So when we talk about the 5 civilized tribes and them taking on slavery, right? How many people know about how much that divided those tribes and how those tribes actually went to war within themselves because some communities didn't agree with it and others did? See, people don't know the little nuances. They just say shit, right? That's why they don't want to talk to me. Because I show you what was really going on and all that little Monday morning quarterback shit niggas be doing. That shit's whack. And that shit just lets me know you don't know the real history. You know what I'm saying? So
I know what you're saying. So
did the 5 civilized tribes agree to own slaves? Yeah, they had to be to be incorporated into the United States government. The only way they could get funded by the United States government is to play by the United States government's laws and rules. So what that happened amongst the 5 civilized tribes is it caused divides amongst all the people in those tribes. Not everybody went along with it, right? Not everybody went along with it. It caused infighting amongst communities. You had upper villages fighting against lower villages. All this shit was going on because one people was like, listen, they're going to wipe us out if we don't agree with them. So you got part of the government saying, the politics of the tribe saying, we got to get down with these motherfuckers or they're going to wipe us out. Then you got the traditional people saying, fuck that. We not doing that shit. And so ever since colonization has started, what people who aren't connected to any indigenous nations who have an actual government with actual history, none of them know that there's been a issue between the politics of tribes and the traditional people, right? To save the people, a lot of the leaders made deals, right? They compromised what was right to save people, right? So it's a catch-22. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. Some of the people were like, we ain't with that shit. And then now you got fighting going on amongst tribes. So now I'm going to let this brother here speak for himself, and he's going to talk about this exact same thing that happened amongst the Creek and the Muskogee people, all right? Because these are the things that everybody who keep passing judgment on people on history, but they don't know enough about it. You know what I mean? This is the problem with all these people who are just dabbling in history.
Is proud of our diverse citizenship. We have citizens who have mixed ancestry, who are also white, African American, Mexican American, and many other heritages. I myself am Creek and Asian. But whatever else we may be, we're all Creek Indians by blood. Janda Vosula Chaudhry Jajifkados, Kazagan Ibufunga Amalga Bukmitus. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of this esteemed committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Janda Vosula Chaudhry, and I'm proud to serve as ambassador of the Muskogee Creek Nation. As I sit here before you today, the sovereignty of all tribal nations is under attack. 2 years ago, the Supreme Court upheld our nation's sovereignty in McGirt versus Oklahoma. Just this past month, however, the court chose to abdicate it in order to placate Oklahoma politicians. Congress has a duty to protect the sovereignty of all tribal nations. That duty is all the more pressing when one branch of the federal government seeks to eliminate it. The Freedmen issues trace their roots to injustices against both Native Americans and African Americans. It goes without saying that slavery is and always has been wrong. And just as the United States fought a civil war over slavery, the Creek Nation fought its own civil war. On one side were the traditionalist Upper Creeks, who opposed the imposition of colonial American life into our nation, including the legalization of slavery. I'm a descendant of Fish Pond and other Upper Creek towns. My mom used to explain family oral history, stating that when our family and other Creeks would raid slave owners, we would give freed slaves 3 options. 1, receive our assistance for passage to the north. 2, live among us and with us. Or 3, join an autonomous Black community within the larger Muskogee world. However, these practices conflicted directly with the goals and desires of the most prominent Lower Creeks, who sought to fully assimilate every aspect of white American culture into the fabric of our nation, including slavery, cotton, and Christianity. Instead of allowing the conflict at Creek Nation to play out through our own internal democratic processes, the United States intervened and dispatched General Andrew Jackson to exterminate the Upper Creeks. The United States' goal was nothing less than complete annihilation. In 8 months of massacres, the United States burned nearly every Upper Creek home and murdered thousands of men, women, and children. My ancestors from Fish Pond sought refuge at Horseshoe Bend on the Tallapoosa River in Alabama, and they were slaughtered by Jackson and the slave-owning Cherokee leaders John Ross and Major Ridge, who volunteered to fight with them. At Towahaschi, Jackson locked 50 men, women, and children in a cabin and burned them alive. Horseshoe Bend and the scores of massacres that preceded it silenced the strong anti-slavery faction within the Creek Nation. Jackson's extermination policies against the Upper Creeks created Alabama and resulted in the Indian Removal Act and ultimately the Trail of Tears. Even so, thousands of Creeks fought on the side of the Union in the American Civil War. Once again, we were targeted. Our homes burned and hundreds died. In exchange for our loyalty, the United States promised that once the war ended, our nation would not lose any land and all of the loyal Creeks would be financially assisted. Both promises turned out to be lies. The Treaty of 1866 has often been characterized as a Reconstruction treaty. For us, it was not. It was a land grab that stripped us of half of our reservation by force. And my great-great-grandpa up Knee Hill, who fought for the Union, said the final payment from the United States wasn't enough to buy a hat. It is important to note that we are not Cherokee Nation. We are not Chickasaw Nation. We are the Muskogee Creek Nation. Our treaty with the United States contains different language than the treaties of other tribal nations. Our current Constitution was reviewed and approved by the Department of the Interior. However, the interpretation of this treaty is currently the subject of ongoing litigation. Any true solution must go beyond the shallow political rhetoric and the yes-no binaries that such rhetoric supports. To that end, we've begun a process at Muskogee Creek Nation of developing historical, cultural, and legal research that will help our citizens engage in a thoughtful, informed exploration of this issue as they exercise their sovereign right to determine the future of the Muskogee Creek Nation. The Muskogee Creek Nation is proud of our diverse citizenship. We have citizens who have mixed ancestry, who are also white, African American, Mexican American, and many other heritages. I myself am Creek and Asian. But whatever else we may be, we are all Creek Indians by blood. And as a nation that has endured policies intended to exterminate us because we are Creek Indians by blood, citizenship and issues involving non-Creek persons engender deep conflicting emotions. Quite frankly, our citizens stand on both sides of these issues. We're working towards healing. We're not only the descendants of select families that owned slaves, but also those who opposed slavery and incurred the targeted and murderous wrath of the United States military. But the solution to this is not another colonial intervention by the United States. Mado.
That was interesting, though. But I do got something to say, though. I sure as hell do hate the Supreme Court, especially what they're doing right now. You know, but I digress.
Yeah, that's funny. I digress. Yeah, but the thing is that I hear a lot of people, like, it'll be a question, like, people will say, oh, you claiming to be such and such. Well, they own slaves. As if being a descendant of a nation that did or did not own slaves, as if the individual had a say-so in that, and as if, like, what is that supposed to mean? So if I find out that the nation that I was a part of, whether my particular community was with the shit or not, because the nation that I was a part of, the political side of it agreed to slavery, I'm supposed to denounce my nation? Is that what you're insinuating? Like, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get the logic of the questions that are asked, and I don't understand why people can't center the conversation on, like, literally what's being asked.
It's interesting that you brought it up, though, because, like, there's a quote in the Bible, right? Something about the sins of the father or something like that, though.
Okay. And that's a quote in the Bible. Whose book is the Bible?
The white man's Bible, man.
I'm not even gonna say the white man's Bible, because it's a group of people's Bible. It's a group of people's book. Certain group of people put it together for themselves. Who are those people?
The Arabs or the
whatever
Jews.
Groups whatever groups that these different books come from, because they're all books from all different groups. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those books individually are for those certain groups. So what I'm saying is, I don't care. Like, if you give me a book of philosophy, right, I'm going to take the best parts out of it for myself. I'm not going to fucking bind myself to this shit and be under some fucking doctrine. But the things that in there are like, okay, that's good, that's wise, that's smart, I'm going to take those for myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be like, I'm bound to this. So when you're like, the Bible says, okay, and fucking Yoda says this. See what I'm saying? To me,
what you're saying.
I could learn as much. If Yoda says something wise, and I read something wise in the Bible, and I think they're both wise, and I can learn from both, I'm going to put those in my file.
Yeah, I'm not religious in any way, though. Well, I used to be, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm more of a agnostic in a way.
Yeah,
I like the old religion that my ancestors preached of.
Whatever you do, you should govern your own mind and not govern it in a fantasy way where you think you can make up definitions to fucking words. I'm saying you are the like, you got to have non-negotiables. See what I'm saying? Rock solid in certain things.
I see what you're saying, man. You know,
like,
I see what you're saying. But
what are we talking about type shit?
Yeah.
Some people really just be,
you know, and I'm glad that man brought up Andrew Jackson, though. I'm really glad that he brought him up, though, because that man sure as hell should have been condemned.
Man, a lot of people should have been condemned for a lot of shit. But, okay, so we get that, but where we go? Where we going?
You know,
like, Andy, what you online for? Who are you trying to? What is it you trying to connect with online? What the fuck is you online looking for? See what I'm saying? Because you online for something.
Looking for the truth.
Okay.
Trying to find what political or like social philosophy that I belong to.
Gotcha.
You know, but
that's a good answer.
But when I was when I was like a lot younger, I used to be like an internet vigilante, or as people like to call a troll, basically. Because I used to be very annoying back in the day, though. I used to annoy like a lot of like white supremacists and their like token sellouts, basically. Or like on the video game servers. I don't know if you're familiar with like online gaming, but I used to annoy the shit out of them. You know?
Okay, so you was a troll of online gamers.
Yeah. I used to piss off like the black the black conservatives, though. They sure as hell in my guts, though.
So you was a racist? Was you raised a racist? And you're trying to work your way through this shit?
No, I wasn't raised racist, though. Yeah. But my dad knew a lot of.
Felt some type of way, though, huh? Yeah, you felt some type of way, huh?
Some type of way, yeah. But
yeah. See, don't let it go. Yeah, you felt some type of way.
Yeah.
Work that shit out. Work through your shit, bro.
Yeah. I used to be.
Go. Somebody taught you that shit. Let that shit go.
Well, I was taught those things a long, long time ago.
Yeah, that don't mean you can't let that shit go. I tell motherfuckers sometimes, listen, you said you online looking for your place and looking for your this and looking for your that. You looking for shit. But I tell you what, you ain't gonna be able to pick nothing up until you put some shit down.
Yeah.
Well, you could bring 1 million bags with you and be fucking weight down, all this shit in the bag. Put some of that shit down so you can pick some of this new shit up. That's why you just said it. You online looking for some shit. Well, you gotta lighten your load so you can pick some shit up. A lot of times motherfuckers out here looking and don't want to put shit down.
Sorry. Don't hurt her. Yeah, I know. The cat is just... what the hell, dude? Sorry, I have a cat who's trying to bite me. Stop.
Yeah,
Stop. Stop.
That's what the fuck they do.
Damn it, dude. Yeah, she pisses me off, though. Sort of God.
Yeah, I'm looking for this interview with Bob Marley.
Oh, I love Bob Marley though.
But yeah, he talks about the Buffalo Soldier song,
Oh, I heard that song like
right?
when
And
I was like in a black barbecue somewhere.
yeah,
I
but
heard
the
Bob
thing
Marley.
is, for a long time, people took pride in that song because they ain't know the real history of what the Buffalo Soldier was and what he did, right? So when Bob Marley realized what it was, he had issues with even performing the song. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure
I
if he.
love Bob Marley and I love his music, you know. But yeah, I was glad that I was exposed by like a group of Jamaicans though. You
I don't know
know.
if it was a group of Jamaicans. I'm just saying the Buffalo Soldiers were.
No, because my dad was friends with a bunch of like Rastafarians and shit.
Yeah. I mean, but the actual Buffalo Soldiers were a U.S. regiment of black soldiers.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
friend told me about it.
yeah, and they were used to clear all the buffalo, to kill the buffalo, to help get rid of the Indians.
Well, yeah, well, I have a friend who like despised the Buffalo Soldiers though.
Yeah, because
You
of
know,
what they actually did to the
Native
to
Americans.
help us. Yeah,
Or
to
they
help.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they served in the Union Army, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, they were part of the U.S. They were a U.S. Army
With
regiment.
with General Kurt Custer or some dude. I don't know. Some
Yeah,
like Union general.
yeah. I just know that it wasn't a good look what they was doing.
I know,
You know what I'm
man.
saying?
Well,
But
I'm gonna
the point
tell
I'm trying
you.
to make is
Hmm.
that don't mean that every African American, Black American, African, whatever you want to call it, whatever people want to call themselves, want to call themselves
Is it Uncle
African.
Tom? Is that what you're saying?
It don't mean that everybody should be judged based on what those people did. And you know what I'm saying? Like them motherfuckers was under threat, duress, and coercion. Them motherfuckers was
Yeah.
being threatened. Everybody was being threatened in history at that point. Everybody of color, Indian, African, whoever the fuck you was, your life was in jeopardy at any moment.
Yeah.
That's just what it was.
Yeah.
So even
Well,
the
I had a
decisions,
friend. Uh,
people was making back then, they wasn't making them in their right mind. They was making them dealing with the situation at hand. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Just it is what
Well, I had
it
a
is.
friend who was Choctaw, and he changed my mind about Southern stuff because I used to look down on them. If you live in the state of California, we have like a little name for them. It's a little derogatory, but we call them jugheads, basically.
Call them
You
what?
know, jugheads. I don't know if you're familiar
Junkheads?
with that. Yeah, those are like that's an insult from a person. It's an insult, but we usually call that or like direct that to people who are from the South, especially the deep South, basically.
Yeah, Jughead is a character. I know what a Jughead is. It's the
Yeah.
comic book Jughead. Man,
Oh yeah, the Archie comics though.
Archie comic, yeah. Jughead is like a stupid motherfucker.
Oh
Jughead.
yeah, he is. Because that's what they are, dude. They're stupid, you know.
Yeah.
But my mom loved those comics though. I used to watch
Mm-hmm.
that cartoon though, like Archie's Weird Mysteries though.
Yeah.
But yeah, in California, if you live in the state of California or like Nevada, right? If you're a dude from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or Mobile, Alabama, we got a little nickname for you, and we call you a jughead. And it's not out of kindness. It's out of despite that your ancestors own a certain group of people that shouldn't be
Yeah.
owned in the first place.
It's some racist shit.
Yeah.
It's a way for you to say a racial slur without saying the actual racial slur you want to say. It's a passive aggressive way of being. Yeah, you got some issues, bro.
Well, that's what I used to call the neo-Nazis and the fucking black Republicans that live in the South. I mean, that live in the deep South and shit. That's what I used to call them.
Yes.
And they used to get mad at someone I called them that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
hope you don't
That's
be
where I'm
trolling
from.
people in real life. You don't sound like you're a big motherfucker.
No,
Sound like
but
you're like a little dude, bro.
little dude.
I don't know. You could be a huge dude, but right now you sound like you're a little dude. I hope you don't be trolling people in real life.
No, I don't do that in real
Yeah,
life.
you know better than real life, right?
I'm only 5'9", dude. I'm only 5'9". No, wait, 5'8".
Yeah, so you like an average size dude. That's cool. So you're not no small dude, but yeah, bro.
My friend's 5'9". I'm 5'8".
So I'm sure in real life you know how to treat people. You don't troll people in real life, right?
No, I don't troll people in real life at all.
Yeah, I'm sure you hold doors and everything, right?
Nah. But those are like the days when I was like 14 or 13 years old and shit.
You
I
can
used to do
draw.
that.
You can draw.
Can I draw? Yeah, but I can. It's funny when you say that because I'm going to like art school like next month. I'm going to art school, dude.
Yeah, you sound like you could draw. You sound like a fucking artist, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sound like a
Well, you're
little
familiar with the character
artist.
Jughead, right?
What?
Yeah, you're familiar with the Jughead character from the Archie comics, though.
Yeah, just don't get comfortable. Don't get no slave and racial shit. Don't get comfortable.
Yeah, well, but they've been saying that, like, you'll find like a lot of game bangers that will say that
A
basically,
lot of
like
what?
a lot of Latino game bangers though, like a lot of Hispanic game bangers use that word, like back in the 50s and 60s and shit.
I'm not familiar with the Latino gang slang in the 50s and 60s.
Well, I got family that were part of that.
Yeah, you probably do being in California. Yeah, so you know a lot more about that than me. I would defer to you on the gang slang of Latinos in the 60s and 50s.
Well,
The expert on that. Anything that is conveyed in terms of gang slang, it's your department.
yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm thinking about joining the military probably like next year and stuff.
How old are you?
20.
Oh, you're 20. Okay.
My dad didn't want me to enlist when I was like 19 or 18 and shit.
They'll whip you into shape. They get you right. Yeah, you're gonna have to submit though. You know that, right?
I know.
Sound like you're gonna have a problem.
With what?
With them telling you what to do, bro. Telling you when to get up.
Yeah.
They'll get you right
Well,
though.
I always had people telling me what to do. I got a
All right,
family that tells me what to do all the goddamn time, so that wouldn't surprise me that much.
So you probably operate well under a structured environment. That's probably best for you. So
Yeah, I know it's best for me.
Yeah, so the military is good for you. Know your weaknesses, go in there, learn how to govern yourself. And when you're done, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Go in there and let them get you right, get you solid.
Yeah, but I'll never call a Southerner a jughead, though.
Yeah, well, after basic training, you could be comfortable and call them a jughead out in real life. All right?
Yeah.
How about that?
It's only an insult.
Huh?
It's only an insult. To
Yeah, it's something you can get away with. I know what you're really saying, but you know what I mean? That's like a... That's not a racial slur. So you can call somebody a jughead because I guess you're referencing their intelligence. That's cool. I call people stupid all the time.
True. Sorry. Someone's calling me.
All right, bro. Go handle your business, man. Have a good night, bro. I'm about to shut it down. All right?
All right. Well, good night to you too, man.
All right, bro. Good night. Peace from now. All right. So, once again, thank you, Dr. Andy. to get you some rest for the night. So yeah, got that smoke coming.